New this morning, Border Czar Tom Homan says ICE may remain at America's airports even after TSA officers resume normal operations. Some agents already receiving back pay after President Trump's executive order. Commander-in-Chief ready to force Congress to return to Washington and end the now 47-day-long DHS shutdown. Deportations of illegal aliens still ongoing across the country. A spokesperson from DHS telling Fox News that ICE has deported child predators, rapists, gang members, and drug traffickers this past weekend, adding that the agency, quote, will not allow Democrats to slow us down from making America safe again. I want to bring in former acting ICE director and former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary Jonathan Fahey. Jonathan, it's always great to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. What do you make of this comment from Tom Homan that these ICE agents are going to remain at the airports?
I think in a lot of ways it makes sense. Right now they've been sort of assisting TSA with just helping people get through the lines. And I think the number of TSA agents that we lost total that actually quit was like 500. So it's not a huge number. But what's important is for ICE and what they're doing and what this administration has been doing so effectively is the deterrence of people coming here illegally. And one of the places people could come here illegally is through our airports. So I think having ICE agents there will deter people coming here illegally. And also, if there are people that are illegally here or committing other crimes, they're there to supplement law enforcement. And the final thing that I think is most important in a heightened security risk environment with what's going on in Iran, it's helpful to have additional law enforcement at an airport because you always want to create the image of a secure place to deter anyone from trying to do anything to harm travelers or harm airlines or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly in the middle of a conflict with Iran, you would think that you would want the Department of Homeland Security to be up and running and fully funded, and that's the unfortunate timing of all of this. What is the biggest risk, in your opinion, of having DHS shut down this long?
Well, the couple things I think are important. You have what's called CISA, which is a cybersecurity. They're not getting paid. If those people start to leave, those are important, skilled people that are not easily replaceable. So that's really important. But the other thing that I think you have to look at, you always want your adversary to see that you're on top of your game, that your security is top notch, and showing this sort of discord makes us more vulnerable. And I don't think there's any way to argue about that. What really makes that so shameful about what the Democrats are doing, and what the latest bill that the Democrats supported last Friday night gave up the game for what their true intentions were, because they always said it was about ICE reform, but then Senator Schumer was gleeful about funding a bill that didn't fund ICE but had no reforms whatsoever. But I think if we're looking at national security, everyone should be able to agree that DHS needs to be funded. Public safety, national security should always be above politics, and unfortunately it's not in this case.
Yeah, no. Again, like I said, unfortunate timing, to put it nicely. I want to ask you about this. I need your legal head on here for a second. The Supreme Court's going to begin hearing oral arguments this morning for President Trump's landmark Birthright citizenship case. This is a major test of his immigration agenda. The president said yesterday he may be there in person to hear the arguments. Watch.
The Supreme Court tomorrow is going to hear arguments about your executive order trying to get rid of birthright citizenship.
And I'm going.
You're going to go to the Supreme Court
I think
tomorrow,
so. I do believe.
And just sit there and listen.
Because I have listened to this argument for so long, everything having to do with birthright citizenship. It was at the end of the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves and the protection of the babies of slaves. It didn't have to do with the protection of multi-millionaires and billionaires wanting to have their children get an American citizenship. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Jonathan, this would be the first time in history a sitting president has viewed arguments at the nation's highest court. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. And President Trump has been dialed into this issue for years and years. So it really will be interesting with him there, the dynamics there. And when you look at the merits here, President Trump is exactly right on the policy, because the whole point of this amendment had nothing to do with illegal immigrants and certainly birth tourism and all this other nonsense that's going on where people exploit our system. It was to deal with a unique situation, dealing with freed slaves and their children, and they certainly didn't contemplate, meaning the people that drafted and passed the amendment didn't contemplate the illegal immigration aspect of it. And the key issue is, it's born here and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, the two clauses. And that's the key question is, what does it mean to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States? It can't just mean being born here, or they would have said being born here. So there is a very good argument that subjection to jurisdiction means something like you have to have some sort of loyalty to the United States, because as it stands now, you could be born here, you could be an American citizen and also subject to the jurisdiction of the country your parents are citizen from, which doesn't make any sense at all. This is a tough argument for President Trump because we have 100+ years of it being interpreted this way for the Trump administration. But what he did was bring this issue to the forefront, and it really needs to be discussed. And if it doesn't go down in the Supreme Court, we should look at a constitutional amendment and other types of things, because it's really important with the overall immigration agenda to prevent people from exploiting U.S. citizenship, which should mean something. It should have some inherent value more than just gaming our system and it being handed out to you.
Well, I'm sure during the Civil War, or even going back to the Founding Fathers, they didn't predict that we were going to have Chinese billionaires that were going to use this loophole to actually have multiple children that would be U.S. citizens.
Yeah, exactly. No one saw this coming, and again, it was for this unique situation. And if anyone had known about this, I'm sure they would have said it doesn't include people that sneak into our country, break our laws, and want to game the system for not only the child that's born, but remember the parents. It makes it much harder to deport the parents as well. So it's sort of like it's been interpreted, at least by the Democrats, as almost family citizenship, and that's certainly not the case. And again, the most important thing is protecting the American people, protecting our borders, and we can't allow things like this because it just encourages more lawlessness.
Absolutely. Real quick before you go, I've just got a few seconds here, but I do want to get your take on the White House beginning to ease restrictions on asylum applications for migrants in some non-risk countries. I mean, the heavy restrictions were put in place back in November after this Afghan national allegedly killed one National Guard member, gravely injured another. And a spokesperson from DHS telling Fox News that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration has lifted the adjudicative hold for thoroughly screened asylum seekers from non-high-risk countries. What do you make of this?
I think it makes sense. They did a pause basically to make sure we're vetting people that are not going to harm us. And that's what they did. And they still kept the high-risk countries, or most of the high-risk countries, on a list where you can't come in. So I think it's a smart move. And it was really pragmatic to just stop it. And now they're restarting it when it's safe.
Okay. Jonathan Fahey, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. A lot going on. Thank you for being here this morning.
You bet.
All right, Jonathan.